So as Alcira mentioned, I'm Jonathan Keene, and I'm here to speak on behalf of Brett Wright, who couldn't be here because of the weather. So his statement follows. I joined the military shortly after graduating high school, right here in Colorado Springs. I've lived a bit of a sheltered life culturally. Before joining the Navy, my experience in leadership was pretty much of leading others into temptation variety. In the military, I had to learn what it meant to work as a team, what responsibility to others felt like, and I learned a lot about what it means to be a human. Now, I know that there are a lot of people who might be skeptical about that claim, the military being what it is, but it was there that I learned what real poverty looks like. I learned that a family of 4 living in a lean-to of sticks and cast-off corrugated tin could love and laugh and be thankful for what they had, even in the midst of having nothing. I learned to celebrate a pair of shoes and a schoolhouse with a working light switch. I learned that people could be hurt from the words of my preconceived provincial ideas about religions that were not the ones I'd grown up with, and cultures that were, quite literally, foreign to me. I learned to ask questions, instead of falling back on the stereotypes that I'd grown up believing. I learned to try new foods, new customs, and new languages. I sat for hours pointing at objects and people saying, ¿Cómo se dice en español? And ¿Qué significa? In a bar in the middle of the afternoon in Panama, which means, how do you say this in Spanish and what does this mean, respectively? Bless the slow, lazy day and the very patient bartender, and because of him I understood more about Latin culture that day than at any time during my 3 years of Spanish in junior high with its annual Mexican food festival and Spanish dancers. I also learned plenty about mortality and the fragile web of existence that surrounds us, about how our lives connect in ways that are at once beautiful and terrible. I learned that sometimes love is as simple as reverence and as complicated as helplessness. I learned that to lead oftentimes means to know when to follow, and when to allow others to learn their own definition of leadership. These things opened up the world to me. My eyes widened with my world, and by the time I had retired, I was able to understand exactly how small we all are. How small the world, through love, understanding, and mutual respect, really became. And with this came a million possibilities. So now I am here, and here's where I'm meant to be. And here's where you also are meant to be. Welcome.
Love is the spirit of this church, and service is its calling. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another.
During spring training, the year that Pete Rose was about to break Ty Cobb's all-time hits record, a reporter asked him, "Pete, you only need 78 hits to break the record. How many at-bats do you think you'll need to get the 78 hits?" Pete just stared at the reporter and very matter-of-factly said, 78. The reporter yelled back, "Ah, come on, Pete, you don't expect to get 78 hits and 78 at-bats, do you?" Mr. Rose calmly shared his philosophy with the throngs of reporters who were anxiously awaiting his reply. He said, "Every time I step up to the plate, I expect to get a hit. If I don't expect to get a hit, I have no right to step into the batter's box in the first place. It is that positive expectation that has gotten me all of the hits in the first place." As with Mr. Rose, expectations can be inspiring and motivational. Our expectations can launch us into action, especially if we think the only way those expectations will come true is if we are the ones making it happen. If the civil rights activists or Black Lives Matter movement expected the policies and attitudes in this country to change without taking an active role in making those changes happen, they would almost certainly be disappointed. As Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in this world." On the other hand, expectations can also be excused for doing nothing. We could assume that with so many hopeless people on the streets, someone must be doing something. Or with so much of our income going towards taxes, that surely the government would feed and clothe and house them all. If we expect others to make the world we want, or the family we want, or the church we want, and we don't do anything to make those expectations come to fruition, it is very likely that they never will. So expectations can lead both to great joy, as when President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act, and great disappointment if the marchers expected attitudes to change just because President Johnson signed the Civil Rights Act. They too would be disappointed. Leo Babauta is the author of The Power of Less and the creator and blogger of Zen Habits. The following is taken from one of his posts. How much of your stress, frustration, disappointment, anger, irritation, and general annoyance comes from one little thing? Almost all of it comes from your expectations. And when things inevitably don't turn out as we expect, from wishing that things were different. We build these expectations in our heads about what other people should do, what our lives should be like, how other drivers should behave. And yet it's all fantasy. It's not real. And when reality doesn't meet our fantasy, we wish the world were different. Leo Babauta offers a simple solution. Take your expectations and throw them into the ocean. Picture all the expectations you have for yourself, your life, your spouse, your kids, your job, and high planes. Take them from deep inside you and toss them into the ocean. A river or a lake will also do. Throw them down the drain for that matter. What happens to them? They float. They're carried around by the water and the current takes them out and they drift away. Let your expectations be washed away by the cleansing waters and let them go. Now live your life without them. What's a life without expectations like? It means you accept reality as it really is and people for what they really are. What if you came to High Plains with no expectations at all? I certainly did. When I first stepped into High Plains, I didn't even know what a Unitarian Universalist was. I knew what I wanted. I knew that I needed to find a church home. And I knew that I hadn't found what I was looking for in any other church. But I had truly never even heard of Unitarian Universalists, so I had no expectations for what I might find. Having no expectations meant that every experience, every opportunity came as a surprise. The very first time I stepped into that tiny little storefront, now occupied by Freaky's Tattoo Parlor, Betty Davis greeted me with that beautiful smile and made me feel so welcome. I immediately felt at home. I had never felt that way in any church. I always felt like an outsider, like I wasn't really supposed to be there. But I actually felt welcome here, and that was a wonderful surprise for me. Then I found out that UUs have no shared creed. You mean it's okay if I don't believe the same thing as you? I'm still welcome here? I can still belong here? How many of you were as surprised as I was when we found out that UUs have no creed? That was certainly beyond any expectation I had, if I had had any. And believe you me, I am more than a little surprised to find myself up here right now. I never had any expectation of ever leading a service or delivering a sermon. But UUs have a shared ministry. What an extraordinary notion that we, the congregation, can not only play a part in the service, but actually create and deliver a sermon. Now that's a surprise. Great expectations can lead to great results, but no expectations can leave you open to even greater opportunities. Some people, like me, walked into High Plains with no expectations at all. Others carried past experience past experiences from other churches in with them, thus coloring or maybe even clouding their expectations for High Plains, which then either sets us up for great success or complete failure. My question to you this morning is this: what are your expectations for this church? And what are you willing to contribute? What are you willing to do to make your expectations a reality? I once heard someone say that expectation without action is criticism. You cannot create a laundry list of expectations and believe someone else will fulfill it. You have to take an active role in fulfilling your own expectations. Did you expect a warm welcome when you walked in the door? First impressions matter. When you walk in the door and someone greets you with a beautiful smile and a handshake, it makes you feel welcome. Like we're really glad you're here. If feeling welcome and making others feel welcome is an important part of your church experience, then becoming a part of the welcome team is one way you can ensure your expectations are met. There are currently 18 regulars, if you will, that dedicate one Sunday a month to helping people feel welcome in this church. It's not a lot of time. It is a lot of fun, and you get to meet like everybody. If you expected a warm welcome when you walked in the door, if you think other people expect a warm welcome when they walk in the door, then you can turn your expectations and their expectations into reality. What if you expected a beautiful, inspiring facility? While this place may not completely meet your expectations, trust me when I tell you that this building, this property, is miles removed from what we started. A lot of people dedicated a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, not to mention their hard-earned cash, transforming this place from a run-down, tired old arcade into the sacred space we now find ourselves in. The aesthetics team strives to create a place of worship that invites us into a moment of reverence. Do you have ideas for how to renovate this sanctuary? What about maintaining the building and grounds, or improving the grounds? What of your time, talents, and treasure might you be willing to contribute to usher those ideas into being? Did you come to High Plains expecting meaningful, fulfilling worship services? Did you expect more music? Less music? More guest speakers? More silence? The worship team strives to create services that feed your soul. Your ideas and feedback on the sermons, the music, the order of service itself helps us better understand and meet your needs and expectations. Some people believe that we all have a service inside us, just waiting to be shared. Maybe, maybe not. But one thing is sure, we all have a story. We all have wisdom and knowledge. You may not have a service just waiting to get out, but you may have an idea for one. You can help the worship team meet your expectations by simply talking to us. Let us know how we're doing. Let us know what you like and what you don't like. Better still, become part of the worship team and help create the kind of services that meet, or better yet, exceed your expectations. Did you expect that High Plains would provide your children with a well-rounded religious education with caring, loving volunteers? Calling on the religious wisdom and knowledge of our forebears, our faith formation team is committed to building a better community through work, spirituality, and openness. It takes 18 volunteers to ensure a robust religious education program for our children. Do you have great expectations for an equally robust adult education program? Could your time and talents be used to help us realize those expectations? Did you expect a loving, caring community that would be there in your time of need? I can tell you from personal experience that having visitors and meals delivered when you're sick or broken is a blessing beyond measure. Over the past year, the care team has arranged for approximately 30 meals to be delivered to 4 families. Are you willing to make a meal for a family going through a hard time? Are you willing to take time to just sit and visit with a church member in distress? If your expectation is that High Plains be a loving, caring community that will be there in your time of need, then your gifts are needed on the care team. Did you expect a community deeply involved and committed to social justice? Did you know that High Plains has a team of volunteers that works with the Fostering Hope Foundation to act as an extended family to support families with foster children? We are currently supporting 2 families. The team meets with the foster parents and a professional staff member from Fostering Hope once a month to find out the needs of the family and to help meet those needs. Being a parent is hard enough. Being a foster parent is doubly so. High Plains, in partnership with Fostering Hope, helps these families manage the challenges of parenting. The third Sunday every other month, members of High Plains and All Souls Church volunteer at the Marion House Soup Kitchen, providing hot meals to those in our community who might otherwise go hungry. A few hours in the morning for prep and a few hours in the afternoon to serve is a great way to live our principles. Al Sly leads our efforts with the Habitat for Humanity, helping build affordable homes for families in need. And every December we join the Adopt a Family program, providing gifts or gift cards to a needy family. And if all of that wasn't enough, we also have our 4th Sunday collection that will soon include additional Sunday afternoon forums. The social justice team also creates worship services, such as this one, and is currently looking at the UUA social justice curriculum as part of the adult religious education program. If you expected a strong social justice program, you came to the right place. But we need you to join us. We have myriad opportunities to employ your unique gifts in whatever way works best for you. Pick a program, get involved, and turn your expectations into reality. Lao Tzu said, "Act without expectation." Acting without expectations means we act and do what's right just for the sake of doing it. Teaching without saying anything means that we teach by example. All of that stuff we believe in and desperately want to preach to everyone, we don't. Instead, we live it quietly. Expectations can create fear and anxiety because what we think we want, what we expect to happen, may or may not happen. When we give without expecting something in return, we actually open ourselves to a completely different experience. So again, my question to you this morning, what are your expectations for this church? And what are you willing to contribute? What are you willing to do to make your expectations a reality? Our theme for the month of November is ancestry. What does it mean to be a people of ancestry, and how is that theme of ancestry connected to our service this morning? What we do, how we choose to contribute our time, talents, and treasure to this church will hopefully provide a solid foundation on which this church can flourish and grow for many years to come, so that someday our children's children's children can look back and say, this church, this blessed community, this sacred space was created by our ancestors. They nurtured a loving, respectful religious community. They inspired spiritual growth, and they acted for social justice, so that we could inherit a more loving, accepting, and just world. May it be so.
Nurtured by this community, inspired by all that we share, may our actions carry this love forward into our lives and into the world every day.